have done it.
Good evening, everyone.
It would help, wouldn't it? Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark on the post-match tonight as Newcastle United, excuse me, frog in my throat, no pun intended, as Newcastle United lose in France to Marseille, the Champions League, 2-1. We're going to get stuck in. We're going to pick through all the bones of the game, talk about the lineup, what went right, what went wrong. Just before we do, a little reminder, if you haven't already, smash subscribe below. Help get us to the next milestone as I subtly move my microphone away from my arm. Yes, smash that button. Help get us to the 12,000 subscriber mark. I've got a mint prize once we get 12,000, which I will tell you about this week because we're really, really close. So you keep smashing that button. Recommend us to family and friends. We are live tonight. Jump in the chat. There's loads of you in there already. We'll go through as many of your comments as we can and get stuck right into it. Now, before I come to you, Mark, I'm not massively annoyed about this tonight, right? And I'll tell you why. I'm slightly vexed by a couple of things, but I'm not annoyed, right? Because this was a really tough fixture for Newcastle, a really tough away fixture, right? You know, we all heard about the trouble and the concerns before the game. You know, outside the ground, there was people, you know, lighting flares. The stadium was rocking. Walls were full of graffiti. It was a really, really rough place to go. I was just seeing if you got that one there. You didn't disappoint. There was a delayed laugh, but I knew I'd get you. I knew I'd get you. I had that one locked and loaded and ready. So, yeah, right, we'll get stuck into the serious stuff now. Just had to give Mark a giggle before we got stuck into the serious, moany stuff. But let's look at how Newcastle United lined up. Someone's already got me with your feet there. You know where I'm coming from in the comments there. I see you. So this is how we lined up tonight. And safe to say, Mark, caused a little bit of controversy. I wasn't surprised Nick Pope started. I know people were talking about Ramsdale. After tonight, maybe people were talking about Ramsdale even more. But
we'll come to that, yes.
We'll definitely come to that. But I wasn't surprised to see Dan Burn back in a left back because I think got to manage Lewis Hall's minutes. You know, Trippier still injured, so Tino really had to start. But the one thing that really surprised me in the starting lineup, Mark, was Willock, and we'll come into Willock in a minute. But what was your initial take on the lineup? Were you shocked? Were you surprised, especially with Gordon through the middle, or did you think it was about right to rotate Big Nick?
Managing minutes is a big thing, and it's something that I don't think Eddie Howe has managed to be able to do in the past. We've seen it in the previous Champions League sort of campaign, and I think it was right to have done that. Certainly Paul, yes, he's come off with cramp at the weekend. He's just come back from injury. Tino probably running on a few fumes as well was a potential surprise in that, but with obviously Trippier being missing, it was gonna be the case. Gordon through the middle, I don't like, but he's the only option. With, you know, you need to manage the minutes of Big Nick, because we've seen it before with a striker. When you just play constantly for 90 minutes, they run out of steam. So it made sense. You sat back and thought Willock over Ramsey or Willock over Miley.
Didn't get it.
But actually, no, I didn't get it at first. Actually, we'll come on to it a little bit more. But in the end, it seemed like a really reasonable decision to make. So that I think the lineup was okay. It just shows that the lack of that second striker, and as quick as Johan Visser can be available, the better.
Absolutely, yeah. I think if a certain Johan Visser was fit tonight, we might not have lost that game. But we'll get into that. You know, obviously Marseille, the danger men for them was a certain Mason Greenwood, who I thought was excellent tonight. To be fair, say what you want about him out the pitch, but on the pitch, he's a very talented footballer. And Aubameyang at 36 showed he still has plenty in the locker. Just some of your chats coming in. Chip has been a member for 13 months. Thanks for that support, Chippers. He's done with Eddie. Sick of this favourite picking now. And that's an interesting one. We'll get into that. Richard is saying as well, second half was right off because of one man. Absolutely ridiculous, and we all know it was him to completely fuck a game up. I'll shake my head if he's in goal against Everton. But we'll get into that, Richard. We'll get into that. But you know, it's easy to forget. We started this game quite well, actually. We were intense. We were in Marseille's face, despite all the atmosphere and all that graffiti on the wall outside. You know, we did start strong. You know, sorry, I'll do another one. We did start strong, We were intense. We weren't overawed by the atmosphere. We weren't scared by the atmosphere. And it was a hell of an atmosphere. They were bouncing. I could see the crowd before the game. I was thinking, bloody hell, look at that, But the lads stood up really well. There was an intensity about them, very similar to the City game. We were pressing, we were rushing Marseille, and we get the goal on the 6-minute mark. It's a lovely little bit of play. I think Willock's involved in it. Tonali makes a kind of a very quick start and run. You think he's offside, but you look back, he's not. He's just onside. Put it across the box. Anthony Gordon has not backheeled this, by the way. I saw somebody said in the TTR group, he fucking missed the shot completely. And it happened to just fall to the man of the moment, Harvey Barnes. And what another clinical finish by Harvey Barnes, Mark. He did not fuck around at all, did he? What a finish by Harvey.
Nah, it's pure Harvey Barnes, that just to be calm and composed in that regard. It was, Gordon sort of gets to it. It flicks off the back of his foot and bounces off a defender and through to Barnes. Is a bit? I think the group chat was a bit of a fake assist for Anthony Gordon there.
Is that the new trendy word? Fake assist.
Fake assist. It's not second
instead of X's.
What was the pre-assist that people used to talk about? Honest to God, man, it's worse than XG. But yeah, he gets a lucky ricochet. It comes to Barnes, and Barnes is, he's in form, isn't he? And there was only going to be one outcome at that point.
Well, George has gone in already saying, what does Gordon bring to the team? Anyone tell me, because I can't see it. We'll get into Gordon in a second, George. And Newcastle were good for good for their lead. They deserved it. They were right in the faces of Marseille. They weren't even letting Marseille play. Marseille did come back into it, and there was no surprise. Every time Greenwood got the ball, Aubameyang was making a run. He had a couple of nice chances, a little ball over top from Greenwood. There's the podcast, right? Q. Couple of nice little bits of movement. Ball over from Greenwood. He gets a shot off, and Pope makes a half decent save. And there's another header again, which I think is again Pope gets down and makes a good save. But we had chances on the break as well, so many times, 2 or 3 times. But our final ball was just lacking, Mark, wasn't it? It was just we won the ball back. We broke well. There was more than one incident where I think Willock beats his man, gets round somebody, and then maybe the ball's just a bit too heavy and doesn't find a man. Bruno kept undercooking his passes quite a lot when he got in the middle of the park, and Marseille players were picking it back up, and Gordon was getting through on goal with his pace, but he wasn't really doing anything of any real threat or note. And it was almost like Newcastle did the hard bit right, which was keep their shape, keep disciplined, win the ball back really well with likes of Malik Chow, Cher, people like that, Tonali, win the ball back really well, but then lost it at the easiest bit when we were almost 3-on-2. And then they lose it with an undercooked pass. And that happened kind of time and time again, really, didn't it? But we still managed to go in at half-time at 1-0 up, and you were thinking Newcastle are good for this lead, but then the whole thing transforms in the second half, and we've got to get right to it now. Kiwi Tunes already said there about Malachow doing his nut at Pope, and rightly fucking so. I'm going to throw this to you as the keeper in a minute, Mark. 46 minutes in, we're barely on the grass, and Nick Pope has one of his other out-of-body experiences that Mark's got the slides back. That's how serious he's taking this one. For anyone who's listening on an audio, I don't even know if we still do audios. You can see this slide if you're watching the slide. But this was reminiscent of Nick Pope's complete clusterfuck moment against Liverpool that season where he missed the cup final. What on earth is he thinking about charging out a goal there? I just don't get it. I don't understand what on earth he's thinking about. Then he's screaming like a rabid dog at Aubameyang, trying to put off a 36-year-old player with 740 games under his belt and 367 goals. How is he going to fucking put you off yelling at you? It's a great finish, but what the hell is he doing, Mark? He's thrown the game for us, really. One of the better words.
Well, and again, it comes back to a Nick Pope complete rush of blood to that. I'll put it up again as much as I don't want to look at it. Where the fuck is he going?
Where is he going, mate?
He's got a covering defender, and the ball's going to the obviously to his left, but to the right of the goal from an Aubameyang point of view. Where is he going? What does he think he's going to achieve at that point? I've no idea. You go back to the one against Liverpool where he gets sent off, the one against the Celtic one in pre-season.
Oh, we were there. We were there. We were right behind the goal. What was he doing?
And this is as good as he can be, and as good as as a pure goalkeeper he can be, because he's a good shot stopper, and a caveat always by saying a goalkeeper should primarily be a good shot stopper before anything else. But you cannot make these mistakes again and again and again and again, and he keeps doing it, and he's good at as sort of a rush goalkeeper at times. He does come a long way out of his goal to clear stuff up. He's dreadful with his feet, we know this. But he reads the game so poorly at times, and it's just another one. And he almost runs straight past Aubameyang through, and it's a brilliant finish. And I don't know. I mean, I guess at that point you try anything you can to try and put off the striker. Maybe he's trying a Marco Materazzi sort of comment to Zidane at him at that point to try and put him off. But it's ridiculous, and again just goes to show just. There's another goalkeeper sitting on that bench that probably now deserves a chance, because he's done nothing wrong. And Pope, this is what, 3 times this season that he's caused problems.
Yeah, this is a question I'm going to ask you. Right? Would Ramsdale have got to that? Would Ramsdale have got to that?
I don't think Ramsdale comes for that.
He doesn't charge up his line like that. No,
because you're watching that ball go into an area that you don't need to rush out for. You've got a defender alongside Aubameyang. Bearing in mind that you know Aubameyang's 36 years old as well.
Malik Chow's got the pace to catch most people on that pitch.
Yeah.
Why is he charging out when Malik Chow's there? I don't understand that.
I'll bring it up again. The next nearest...
Chow's going to get there. Yeah. Right? He's got the pace to get there.
Aubameyang's going to get to that ball first. Malik Chow is alongside him. So he's going to keep him in that area. The next nearest player to it, you've got Bacola just by the referee. And I can't make. Is it?
I think that's Hoiberg.
That's the other one, or Hoiberg that's coming through.
I think that's Hoiberg. Yeah.
Cher's got that one covered. You've got Murphy on the right hand side that can also come across and cover that. There's absolutely no need to come into that position. There's no need to come anywhere near outside of the area that you let the defenders defend. And you regroup at that point. You push the ball wide. You allow them to get into an area to bring the players back. That's costing it, and I'm absolutely convinced that the second goal happens because obviously I know it's the run of things, but the second goal doesn't happen if the first goal doesn't go in. They don't get into that position. The heads, they get their tails up. Newcastle's heads, rocked slightly. I know they had the opportunity to make it 2-2, didn't they, after the second one? But at that point, they all rattled a little bit, and Marseille were really, really good. But there's just absolutely no need. And as a keeper, you're sitting there going, I don't understand how you can make these sorts of mistakes continuously.
Yeah, it boggles the mind. It really, really does. John Kay there saying, wait until Pope's in goal for the Sunderland game. Christ, nightmare incoming, and Eddie with his crap excuses. I think the pressure's going to mount on him to do something about Nick Pope. I really, really do. Because as you say, Mark, it's just too many problems this season. Way too many problems this season for Nick Pope. He's a good shot stopper, but his decision making, and even at the end when we were chasing the game, and the commentator said, "Oh, Nick Pope's going to take it," and I said, "This will be shit." Like,
why?
And he kicked it straight to a Marseille player. I was like, all them players that were on the park who could have done something with that ball, and Nick Pope took it. I'd have told him to fucking get off the ball. I'd have said, "You can't kick for shit. Get off the ball." I would have said, "I'll kick it." And to be fair, Newcastle, we did try and get back into it after it was 2-1. I mean, it's a good bit of movement. Cher's probably a little bit slow to pick it up, but as you said, their heads are rattled. Yeah, Mr. Thixton saying there, the last kick from Pope, geez, it was fucking awful. It really was. But we did try and get back into it and try and create chances. I mean, Barnes was, of all the highlights, probably attacking wise, Barnes was the main highlight for me again tonight. He looked sharp. He looked hungry. He was getting in good positions. He was trying to make things happen. I thought, I don't think we played that bad overall. But in terms of the standout players, I thought Harvey Barnes did well. I thought Joe Willock played really well. To be fair to him, he was very much criticised by a lot of us in the starting lineup, certainly me. But I thought he played well. He showed a lot of pace, showed a lot of energy, showed a lot of the Willock of old, which was really, really good tonight. Obviously, Malik Chow again, some good tackles. I mean, that tackle on Aubameyang it was the first half. Brilliant. That tackle in the first half is incredible. I mean, without that, that's a goal. And then the ridiculous dive from Bacolo as well, which was horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean, I shit myself that initial tackle. I thought he'd been fouled, but I thought we defended quite well, except for just that moment of madness for Pope, and it totally unnerved the whole team, didn't it? And you said this before, Mark, and people have said it as well. How many times when we played Spurs in the Cup, how much more comfortable did the back four look with Ramsdale behind them? Look so much more comfortable. And I just think Pope is really, I think he's really a problem for Newcastle right now. I really, really do. I think this is a big decision Howe has to make sooner than later. We know we tried to sign Trafford and that didn't work. He's got Ramsdale on loan for £4 million. He's barely played him. When he's played him, he's done well. And Pope keeps making these fucking howlers. What on earth is he going to do, mate? What on earth is he going to do? I mean, we might as well finish the game wrap up before you answer that. The game kind of wrapped up. Substitutions come on. I thought Miley looked all right. He kind of filled in the centre half. He put in some good challenges. I thought he did quite well. Elanga, terrible again. Fucking terrible again. I think I've just seen a comment there about Elanga. Yeah, it was from Dazzler 84 saying, so disappointed with Elanga. We need him to do well. Shadow of the player, not the system for him. I think he's been a terrible buy. Dazzler, I think we have to sooner or later hold our hands up and admit we've pissed 55 million down the sink. Because I just don't think he's good enough, mate. I really, really don't. But I suppose going back to the Pope thing, Mark, Everton away at the weekend, big game, bigger game than this one, arguably. Who do you start and go? Who do you start and go? Who does he start and go?
I think he stays with Pope. It's not. I said this before. I would move. I would move to Ramsdale. I would have done it after the cup performance. I would have kept him in because he played so well. And you're right. I did talk about it then, and it just frees up the defenders just to not worry about the ball backwards, and it gives them another option. And again, we continue, and I've seen one of the comments in there somewhere that says I'm sick of hearing about it, but it's right. I mean, how many times you see that ball go back to Nick Pope and there's that panic and it's just lumped. There's no thought.
Yeah.
How many? And this is why the free kick at the end really, really fucking annoys me, because
I would have no way near him, man. Get him off.
You see Nick Pope play simple passes, and he gets it wrong. He plays a 30-yard pass out to the sideline and he overhits it and puts it out of play. So putting a ball into an area in the last minute of the game, yes, you want to have everybody forwards, but you need somebody to be able to play that ball to a specific point. If that's going to have to land on Dan Burns' head, then I'm sorry, I want somebody like Barnes or Tonali playing that. Probably not Barnes.
Or Lewis Hall.
Yeah, exactly. I want that dropping on in the right place, and you just can't trust him to do that.
No.
So yeah, I mean, I would move on. A little bit on the game as well, and I messaged in sort of my messages to you. I was really quite. I was pleased and surprised with the performance of Willock. I liked Eddie Howe's setup in that early part of the game where
the tactics were good in the first half. The kind of rolling formation was good. Yeah,
it was open, but I thought they played really well. That they had that sort of in possession three. Move the fullbacks really quite far forward. Bruno and Tonali were almost a two in midfield, with Willock slightly more advanced, and then Barnes tucked in a little bit more. And I thought that really worked. In out of possession, it was more of a 4-5-1. It was very flat. They were blocking the lines as they did against City, and I thought that they really, really had that spot on. They were vulnerable at times on the break, and we saw that particularly when Greenwood would get on the ball down that right hand side for them. But overall, I thought they did really well. The second half, I mean, those two goals were just a killer, because all of a sudden Newcastle then have to come out to try and make something of it, to have to push a little bit further forward. And that just opens the door for Marseille to hit on the break. And they're so quick at breaking. They're unbelievably swift on the break. They've got so much pace in that side to get forward. And it just played into their hands.
No, absolutely. There was some big decisions to make there. We'll get some big comments. So Croc's been a member for 13 months. Thank you, Croc. Appreciate that, buddy. How many times will we keep seeing the same errors? That is very, very true. There's another one here from Jono saying Bruno looks shattered. He needs a rest tonight, or at least his minutes managed. Eddie Howe has run him into the ground. I was really disappointed with Bruno tonight. And as Con Joe says as well, games like tonight expose Bruno's athleticism. I thought he really struggled tonight. Bruno so many times tonight lost the ball. His passing was wayward. His passing was undercooked. I thought he dribble and hang on to the ball too long and get us into troubles. There was one point, I think was it just after they scored, and he hung on to the ball and he got absolutely shoulder charged on his arse. And you were like, Bruno, these lads have turned it up. Like the Zerbi's, just like your dog's turned it up. The Zerbi's got into them at half time, and these lot are intense and they want to win this game. I've got time for your little stupid pirouettes and your fucking turns on the spot. You know what I mean? That's not the game for this. You know, but Bruno's like an ever present in the team, and when he's good, he's great. But when he's shattered, as the lads say there, he's not good. He gets you in more trouble, doesn't he, than he's worth. And I just, you know, I felt with the players that we had, I thought Ramsey added some energy when he come on. He won a few good free kicks. He was trying to get the ball, trying to make things happen. Miley was like a fucking Swiss Army knife. 1 minute he was in midfield, next minute he was right back, next minute he was centre half, making some good blocks. And it was good to see that for the young lad, in all fairness, mate. I like that flexibility in the player.
It was. He covered an awful lot of ground in a short amount of time. And I mean, the tackle he puts in just on the byline to stop the cross, lesson to be learnt there for Tino as well, playing in that left back role. Stop the cross, because he just got himself a little bit caught, and it's great play from Weah to create that opportunity to cross. He
was really good. Timothy Weah was really good. What a good play!
I think I think the com said tonight it's a surprise that he was allowed to leave Juve, because he'd been a good performer, and I think they've got a cracking player, and he can play multiple positions.
They're fucked though. They're fucked money wise. That's probably why.
But yeah, and I think there's a little bit on the was it Fabian Schär that got caught just behind
the goal? Was
Aubameyang in that? Yeah, so he just gets caught behind him. But look, a striker of that caliber, and it goes to show when you don't have that striker in the side, makes those runs. He's able to read the game a lot better. He certainly reads the game a lot better than Anthony Gordon playing in that position. But
also, you're talking about a 33-year-old guy who played on Saturday and now he's playing on Tuesday again. Do you know what I mean? And you've got players, you've got Botman you could have brought in. Do you know what I mean? And again, and Schär didn't have a bad game, but that's how you got to manage it. The only way I can see this being something that Howe has done is if Botman starts against Everton and Schär's on the bench. I mean, you can't really take Malik out of that team for me at the moment, because he's got to be in every fucking team sheet going, because his pace pulls us out of so much shit. Comment there from Itchy Paul is saying the short corners were shite, and when we were putting the ball in the box, we didn't beat the first man. I agree with you, Itchy. I thought our corners were dreadful tonight. It didn't matter who took it. I was disappointed by Tonali's free kick as well, when he skied and blew that.
Oh, that was really poor
on that one, mate.
The corners were really frustrating. There was one that got played to the back post. I think it was the second half, got played deep. And I could see the theory behind it. It didn't come off, but it very nearly could have done. But the short ones were weird. They messed the first one up where he plays it short. The ball back to Tonali isn't quite right, and then you play it back. You're playing it back to Murphy to sort of put in the box, but he doesn't do it in time. So he has to then play the ball back, and they end up playing interplay between them. And then they tried the same thing again in the second half, and it still didn't work. It ended up coming at the box, but it was poor. It was just too slow to be able to do that. And there's been better set piece routines for Newcastle over the last few weeks, the last couple of months, but it's still an area that they need to work on. I think they still need help in that regard.
What's the set piece coach doing then? What's the set piece coach doing? He said they need help.
Who knows?
What the fuck's that guy doing?
But I think. Well, yeah. I don't know. They need something, because there's not enough. I don't think there's enough variation of it. And those ones where the ball's played in, it's played back out, it's not back to put in the box. It's great when you've got 3 or 4 big lads in the box and you can do that. But actually, they're missing one in terms of, obviously, Voldemort wasn't in the side. But when that ball doesn't come in quick enough, and they're not moving the defenders around, it's pointless. You may as well just lump it into the box. But there's good theory behind it. It's just the execution of it, and that's essentially down to the players. But that initial ball back, I think it's from Gordon back to Tonali to then move the ball on. It's just not been good enough tonight from those. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of calls here for changing things around. We've got one here from is it Psycho Circus Clown 85? What a name! Howe needs to try something different away from home. Take out Pope, take out Gordon, take out Burn. 3 players who need to rediscover form and shouldn't be in the first team right now. I totally agree with that. There's another one that starred from John that says Miley will end up another Anderson. I don't disagree with this. You know, will it get in a call ahead of Ramsey and Miley? I mean, the only saving grace might be Miley's young and, you know, maybe he's not going to kick up too much stink yet. But, you know, when you see him come on the park and do quite well, you know, defensively as well as in midfield, you think to yourself, the kid can look after the ball well, he can defend, you know, he's putting in tackles now, his positional sense is decent, you know, and you're thinking, you know, he's going to get pissed off sooner or later like Anderson did. And, you know, and if that does happen, you know, you can see him being a fucking England international by this time next year, probably playing for Brighton or Crystal Palace or something. So that's a concern.
It is a weird one because it wasn't the lackluster performance tonight from a lot of the players that we've seen before. To slightly go back to the game a bit, because there was effort there. There was the work. Certainly the first half, I thought they were much better. It wasn't the away performances we've seen at Brentford and West Ham. It was a far cry from that. But it is telling that the players that came in, particularly Gordon through that centre role. I mean, we know Anthony Gordon. We can shout till we're blue in the face that Anthony Gordon's not a centre forward. He can offer a bit of cover, but he's not a centre forward. He's not going to give you the movement and the positioning that a proper centre forward can give you.
It's weird though, because people seem to think he is like, you know, like Craig Hope. I like Craig stuff. I watch Craig, and Craig was talking about it, and I was like, I couldn't disagree more. Like he literally he couldn't finish a Mars bar duo from the Shell garage, and they're fucking lovely, by the way. So he couldn't even finish one of those, you know. So I don't understand. He freezes. What was that chance? Was when Willock put him in? Was it just before half time? And he fluffed that. You know, he looked like he was doing a scene out of fucking Footloose. Couldn't get his feet straight. You were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, the one that comes across the box. I think he's on his way to put his left foot down as he's trying to take a step, and he's just got his feet all wrong. And then there's the other one where he gets played on the right hand side of the air, and he puts it across. He just scuffs his shot a little bit instead of drilling it as you'd hope in that scenario. He doesn't really get a very good contact on the goalkeeper who was able to palm that away. He's not. I'm sorry, but I'll argue with anybody that wants to suggest that Anthony Gordon is a good centre forward. He's just not. He's you know. He'll do a little bit of a job in that regard for a small period of time, but he's not going to play. I'm sorry, I'm not playing him for 60, 70, 80 minutes as a centre forward because he's just not going to do anything.
No, he just got. As soon as Walter Marder came on, you could see there was more presence there. But you know, I know he looked a little bit jaded and a little bit rusty, but there was still a presence there. You know, all of a sudden we looked different when he was on the pitch. Comment there from Lewis saying, "Didn't Eddie say Kraft travel? Why didn't he play?" I think he had a knock or something, but I've got a bit of an issue here with Emil Kraft personally, right? That not like he owes me a tenner or something, but just, you know, I just think that he's always been a bit part player, and he's never let you down when he comes in. But I just think maybe injuries and age have caught up on him, and I think he only had a year extension, didn't his memory serves, and he's getting injuries now, and he's not playing games right. Fucking get rid and give young Leo Shahar a chance on the bench in games. You know, he's impressed with under 21s. He's in the England ranks coming through. You know, there's a lot from what I gather, you know, little clips I've seen of him and things I hear about him. There's a lot of the Kieran Trippiers about him. Give the kid a chance. Give the kid a chance to be Tino's understudy and send Emil Kraft on his bike and say, thanks for your service, Kraft, off you go, mate. Because if he's not going to be able to play, what's the point having another 30-year-old who's injured?
Yeah, I mean, what is he? He's 31. He's just not.
Now he can't keep fit. He can't stay fit.
He's done a decent job. He's been a decent servant. Again, he's another one of those, but he's another one of the old guard that will come in and do a bit of a job at times, and perhaps will have the odd good game. I think it was at Spurs he had a good game against. In the cup, I'm trying to remember from a year or so ago. But he's just not at that level, and if he's picking up those injuries, then it's not worth it. You're right. Bring in one of the young lads. I mean, Shahar probably is as good as to bring in and put, especially if he's not going to play. You may as well give him the experience of being in and around the first team squad, get him in the squad, and give him some minutes if you've got the ability to do so, and blood him in that side. If you end up in a game where you're 2 or 3-0 up with 15, 20 minutes to go, give him some game time, get him some experience, because you'll only learn about playing in the Premier League and about playing in the Champions League and the Cups if you're going to get those minutes.
Absolutely. That's down to Eddie to do that. Tim's saying Anthony Gordon's playing like he wants to be away in January. I would get rid of him, personally. I was looking at the stats. I think Harvey Barnes has now got 21 goals in 82 games for Newcastle, something like that. And people still say Barnes is not as good as Gordon and all that stuff. Gordon's a pace merchant and he frightens people with his pace. But, Anthony Gordon, when was the last time you saw Anthony Gordon really grab a game for Newcastle, really do something to influence a game for Newcastle? Last season, he stupid red cards when we needed him the most. And I don't think he's the player that he thinks he is. You can have your hair like Pavel Nedved, but you're not playing like Pavel Nedved, mate. Like, you're not influencing games. And, tonight he's been done a disservice because he's not a centre forward. And when you put him through the middle, you take so much away from his game. You'd be better off putting Barnes through the middle. At least he can finish. But Anthony Gordon is nowhere near the man that he thinks he is for Newcastle United. And if somebody's daft enough to give us 70 million quid for him, fucking get rid and use that money and go buy Semenyo or something like that. That's what I say.
It is an argument for that. And you're right. I mean, 21 goals in 82 games now for Harvey Barnes. It's 22 goals in, if you go with the 90-minute stat that I go with, because it's the number of full 90s, it's 21 goals in 43 and a half games, as opposed to Anthony Gordon, which is 26 goals in 90 and a bit games. I mean, those stats are there to tell a story.
Yeah,
Harvey Barnes is much more clinical. He's a better finisher. He gets in better positions. Yes, obviously he'll miss a few. The Saturday against City, for example, but he follows that up. He doesn't stop. He doesn't snatch at chances as much, and he will score your goals. He's one of the only ones that will take an opportunity to shoot from distance. And this is something, again, that Newcastle severely lack options with, is having a pop from outside the box. Yeah. And we've seen this season in particular, I think, with somewhere, have a shot, test the goalkeeper, for fuck's sake. Get a centre forward following into on stuff that comes back out. We don't see any of that.
Yeah, well, that's a good point by Contra there. Surely Neve can't be worse than Gordon. Give Neve a shot. Give him 20 minutes in a game. Showing if he's scoring goals for the then the 23s, let him get on. I agree with this comment as well. Gordon absolutely should not start the weekend, especially against Everton, as he always tries too hard and does fuck all. I totally agree with that. I don't think he's mentally right to play against Everton. I generally don't. I think he's heeds all over the fucking place with it. I wouldn't start him against Everton at all. My front three against Everton would be Barnes, Voldemort, and Murphy. That'd be my front three against Everton.
Easy argument to make that, absolutely. I think I guess the argument would be, if he's a little bit more informed, that if it's at home, yes, it's not as dangerous a decision to make, but I think he will get himself more aggressive in his play for the Everton game, especially there. He'll want to put himself about, and we've seen kind of what happens when he does that. Maybe he's as an impact sub. He's going to get dogs abuse, whatever. But maybe he's as an impact sub that will suit him better at the weekend. But on form, it has to be those three. I mean, Murphy's not been particularly good tonight, but again, he's played a different position for an awful lot of the game. he gave away a few in the first half. His passing wasn't particularly good. You touched on that final ball. Both him and Bruno were guilty of that. Running through sort of 2-on-1 with the defender, and he passes the ball to the fucking defender. I mean, it's just those simple things. But the alternative at the moment is Elanga, who has just been so poor. So it has to be Murphy one side. It's got to be Barnes the other. You're not taking him out the side and Big Nick through the middle.
Yeah, I generally think with Elanga, I generally think they're going to have to call this soon. They're going to have to call this. You know, I don't know. Say if he's still not picked up in any way, shape, or form by Christmas, they're going to have to seriously consider, you know, what they're going to do with this. Whether they go to the transfer market and try and get somebody better. Daniel's saying Copenhagen supposedly want Kraft. You can get the ferry from Royal Keys, mate. You can fuck off from North Shields and get himself there. Go have a look on the shopping centre on the way there. And George is right. Jamal Lascelles is still a Newcastle player, and there's still fans who go, "Oh, well, we'll bring Lascelles in to do what exactly? To do what?" I don't understand this fucking small time mentality of these old fucking players. Oh, well, they're class lads. Yeah, they were 5 years ago. Not now, mate. Get rid. Fucking move them on. You know, that's why we don't develop youth, because we've got these old fucking players who've been here 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Fucking get rid of them. You know, thanks for your service, lads. Well done. Off you fuck. Jamal Lascelles will do a great job for either a lower position Premier League team or a top level championship team. He'll go and be a brilliant player for them. Captain's armband, great servant. He's a really good player for that level. He's a proper leader. He's a good lad. But he shouldn't be anywhere near the Newcastle reckoning anymore. Shouldn't be. You know, George is bang on there. And this is the problem with the whole Eddie Howe setup. We'll hang on to these players way too fucking long. Way too long. To the point where they become a liability because Father Time has caught up on them. You know, it's happened to Kieran Trippier. It's happening to Dan Burn. It's happening to Neil Craft right now. Jamal Lascelles is held together with fucking sticky tape and blue tack because he's fucked, because he's too old. You know, we need to move these players on, man. We need to convey, but likes of Anderson leaving and going to Forest because we can't move players on, you know, and understand that there's a, you know, that young lad there, everyone talks about Eddie Howe. I'll let you in a second, Mark. I'll just have one more rant. That young lad there, right? Everybody could see that young lad had the potential to go up and up and up and up and up, right? Even when he came into the side when Joe Linton was out, you could see there was something there. Young Miley's the same. And we'll let Anderson go to save PSR when we could have sold Willock, we could have sold Longstaff, we could have sold Wilson, we could have sold Almiron, we could have even sold Joe Linton, right? 5 players there we could have sold, and he let Anderson go, and then Minter go as well. And they look like bad moves. And I don't care. I'm not saying Eddie Howe out, but that was a bad move. That was a bad decision to make, and he's got to live with that. And someone needs to pull him on that because he gets a free ride from the press with it.
For me, it's that stage that the Minter one a little bit different, but the Anderson one was very much it was a panic. They've not looked at, and they could have done business to sell players a lot earlier. He's got to be a little bit more ruthless with the players that are there and move players on when they're starting to get past their use. And if you're right, I guess that they were hampered by the fact that those 2 deals were done really, really late on. They had to be done. There was no clauses involved in them because they couldn't do that, which is, I think, the most frustrating thing about particularly the Anderson deal, that you have a potentially a buyback clause in, but that late in the game. But Forest are never going to agree to that. And if that sale falls through, Newcastle fail PSR, they end up with a points deduction. And it's failed, so that they basically have to agree to a worse deal. Hence, then the Vlachodimos coming in as well as to solve some of the problems for Forest, and that's because that's done at the very end of the window, because they've got no other choice at that point. But these moves, you can see them coming. You can see I'm sure. Sorry, but the people in the background must be able to see that there are those issues to be able to then plan, right, okay, we've got to have to sell 2 or 3 to be able to give us some scope in the transfer market to help us get through that window. And then you're looking at the ones, well, who can we move on at that point and get those moved on more quickly? When you come to those squad, I mean, you've singled out Kraft and Lascelles in that regard. They're squad players that are just never going to play. Yeah. They're just not going to play games, and as good a pro as they can be, they'll do a job, but they're not going to play enough minutes. You're not allowed exactly. You're not going to develop any of the kids. You're not going to develop any of those players that are in and around that squad. Alex Murphy's another one that's 21 years old and sat on the bench and never going to play a minute because he can't get ahead of those ones in that pecking order to even play 5 minutes at the end of a game. Come on and add an extra defender to the back line for just to hold on to a 2-1 win or something like that.
Yeah, well, everyone was getting all excited about Sam Alibi or Alibi. Alibi, I must be. I'll say Alibi. Everyone was getting excited about Sam Alibi being on the bench at 16. We all knew he was never going to fucking get a sniff. Like, Lewis Miley can't even get a fucking sniff. And he's got assists in the Champions League. This 16-year-old lad's not going to get a chance under Eddie Howe. No point getting excited about it. He can be on the bench for the experience. He's not going to play. I agree with Phil here, by the way, and I said this to you, didn't I, before we come on. The fact that Newcastle United don't have any dead ball specialists is fucking criminal. You're right, Phil. And do you know what that's a big problem with as well? Because the over-reliance on Kieran Trippier for too long, and we didn't have a contingency plan. We did not get somebody in who was good at free kicks and good at corners. Tonali was supposed to be that guy, but he didn't take any free kicks or corners because Trippier kept taking them all because he was still playing week in and week out. I'm not saying go and sign. It's not the NFL. I'm not saying go and sign Ward-Prowse just because he's got fucking free kicks and pens. I'm not saying that. But get somebody who can deliver a ball. Like, bring someone into your squad who can whip a ball in. Because we've got nobody, man. We've got a 6'6" centre forward and a 6'7" centre half, and no one can cross the ball.
Do you want to know something completely ironic, Rory? Did you watch the Leeds game at the weekend and the balls that Sean Longstaff was putting into the box from dead balls? It was unbelievable.
He's just taking the piss now, Sean.
But you're right. I mean, there's no. It troubles us that as good a ball striker as Harvey Barnes is he not practicing that? Is he not able to do that? He doesn't seem to get involved in any of that. But where are they practicing free kicks? Things like, I mean, obviously practicing corners in the routine.
Coach, this is a set piece coach. He's paid to do set pieces. What the fuck is he doing? What is he doing? It's like a butcher who hasn't got a knife and can't cut the fucking meat. What is he doing? What's the point of being a set piece coach if you can't work on set pieces? What's he called? Mark Morgan? What is he called? Google him, please, Mark. What the fuck is he called? Mick Martin or some shit like that he's called. And what the fuck is he called? But whatever he's doing, he's not doing his job properly because these fuckers can't cross the street. If a lollipop
Martin
lady...
Mark.
That's what he called?
Martin Mark.
Mark Morrison, you lied to me. But turn them back. But he's fucking lying to us because he can't organise set pieces. That's for damn sure. John is saying Elanga has to be the first big flop since the PIF takeover. I don't disagree, John. I think you are look like you're bang on the money, mate. That guy he can't control a ball, Mark.
No, it's
55
really
million
annoying.
quid. What the fuck, man?
It is. I think you're right. I think probably people talked about Chris Wood being a bit of a flop when he came in first, but I thought he was a very serviceable forward. He just wasn't. He wasn't playing in the right one. But you bang on the money. I don't think he does. I think he fit the Forest way perfectly alongside Chris Wood. But Newcastle don't play in the same way, and he just hasn't adapted. And it doesn't look like he can. And at times he does look headless. His control of the ball is awful. He's got unreal pace, but he's just got nothing when it comes to the end of it. We've seen a couple of decent balls into the box. The one against Barca, for example. But other than that, he's done so little.
He's not a centre forward.
Yeah.
That's a good question from Andrew. If you were promised a young player, would you come to us? I wouldn't. Would you?
Well, this is always, I guess, we've talked so much about Eddie Howe being such a good developer of players and such a good coach, irrespective of the manager side of things. He's such a good training ground coach, and he's improved so many players endlessly. So you would think, yes, that he would be the perfect environment to come in and learn as a 19, 20, 21-year-old to come into that setup and be able to flourish. But you look at every week at the way that the squad is put together and the way that he picks his teams and the way that he sets up, and they just don't get an opportunity. And I guess a lot of it is to do with the lack of quality for some of the younger players, particularly if you go back a couple of years. But the quality is we've seen improvements in the quality. You know, we're yet to see the Korean lad Song-soo come into that squad and really make an appearance. You've touched on Shahar as well. Neve's been in and around the squad, but never been given an opportunity really to do anything other than have about 3 minutes at the end of a game. There needs to be more focus on that, because ultimately, when Newcastle are going to make money, particularly the way that the squad is bringing in younger players, being able to develop them and then sell them on, or get them in the first team squad to take over from some of the older guard and sell some of those on.
Absolutely. I mean, I just think that's the one thing that we don't do very well, is move players on. You know, even Joe Linton, who's had an unbelievable career here, the character arc of that lad from being what he was when he first came in to what he's become is incredible. But he's 29. He's going to be 30 soon. How much more are you going to get out of him? And the argument would have been, you look at Anderson, you look at Miley, and you think, right, okay, you know, these lads are going to maybe have a higher ceiling than Joe Linton. Could you get a bit of money for Joe Linton and bring one of them in, like Anderson was already doing the job? And you got Miley there to kind of come in through the back of it, or maybe even send Miley out on loan, get more developed, that kind of a thing. But we just don't handle things very well behind the scenes. And I understand that Eddie Howe wants players he can trust and all that. I get it. I understand it. But if you're not going to rotate your squad and move, I mean, Alex Ferguson was so successful, not just because he was some genius, but he knew when to move players on. You know, everybody thought he was a nutcase when he moved on Kanchelskis and Lee Sharp and you know, and bloody all these other players. Was it Parker, Irwin, you know, Paul Ince, you know. Yeah,
Beckham. There was no fight to keep Beckham at that point. He was one of the best players he'd had.
But he knew he had that class of 92 come when he let go of all those players back in the early 90s. Yeah. And then, you know, Beckham, he went and bought Ronaldo for 12 million quid from Sport. And, you know, that's what you got to do. You can't just go, oh, these lads have been class for me for 3, 4, 5 years. And gone are the days where you get players who are at the club for 15, 20 years, like, you know, your Scholes and your Gary Nevilles. And that doesn't happen in football anymore. It just doesn't exist anymore, because players go and chase money, because we're not at the level we want to be yet as a football club. So there will be players who want to leave us and go and play for Liverpool, like Shithouse Isaac. You know, thankfully, it's all gone to shit for him, which is brilliant. But the point is Newcastle need to rotate the players. Can't just hang on to players. And fans, I think fans are a little bit too sentimental. Listen, you know, I sound like I'm having a proper fucking moan, right? But for me, I'm not even that upset about tonight. This game's not important for me. Saturday's important. Everton's important. That's more important, because Newcastle need to start climbing the league to get to European football next season, which I think is going to be a real difficult thing to achieve. You know, this was a chance to get 12 points in the Champions League and almost guarantee you're going to get through. So it's disappointing that we didn't get the job done. But for me, my concern is that as a squad overall, there's still a lot of guys on the wrong side of 30 in the squad, and he's not giving young players a chance, and that concerns me. Just looking at Malcolm's comment there saying Anderson would not play. Well, he wouldn't have played if you're still going to play players who are been here 3, 4, 5 years. That's my point, Malcolm. I'm not saying Anderson would have played under this manager, but I'm saying this manager needs to look at things a bit differently. He needs to give young players a chance. You know, I mean, look at Max Dowman at Arsenal. I know he's special, right? But Arteta's, and I don't like Arteta, right, because he's a prick, but at least he's given the lad a chance. You know, he's given him a chance in the squads, and he's given him minutes to come on and do something. You know, in pre-season, who was the best player in pre-season for Newcastle? Who was one of the two of the best players in pre-season in for Newcastle was Miley and Song-soo, and Miley's barely had a sniff, and Song-soo's in the fucking 23s, and Elanga's stinking the joint now.
The other one I was going to throw out, it's sort of, I guess it's probably painful for the way that game ended, but and as bad as they've been, but what did Arne Slot do at St James's Park when the game was running? They brought in the young lad to play up front.
Rio.
Yes, he's not. I can't remember It's Rio something, isn't it? I mean, but that just doesn't happen.
No,
and it's the same old that we see each week. And again, I guess you get bogged down. And I'm like you. I guess tonight was always going to be tough. They're great at home. It's a difficult environment to go into. So it being a close game and really is decided by a complete moment of madness, you can look back and go, actually, it's not so bad. But there are those key decisions and those key things that just happen, particularly the second half, that are frustrating. But that goes into what we've seen time and time again with regards to some of those decisions. But I guess there's always a point of this, and we come to some of the comments where you see there's people saying, they still want Eddie Howe to go, and there's loads of grief that people get for having that opinion online and stuff like that. Nowhere near anywhere like that from my point of view. I don't think it should. But I go back to exactly what I said last week, and I think there was some comments in around that, and about him having the and I sort of caught a little bit of flack for this fact that I said that I don't think he can change, but he should, and I stick by that. I do think he's very much stuck. He doesn't want to change his philosophy. He doesn't want to change it, but he has to. He has to do something different at times. And I saw one of the comments earlier that suggested that doing something different away from home is absolutely right. There, have a home system and an away system until you get to the point where you can get a bit of confidence going away from home, be able to do a little bit more of what you want to do without going away and shitting the bed and losing, particularly the Premier League games. He has to do something different. He has to bring in perhaps some of these young players and just let them have a go, because they're an unknown quantity to Premier League. Good night, mate. They're an unknown quantity to the Premier League side. So bringing in somebody like Song-Soo, you can't prepare for that, because nobody's seen what he's, other than the minutes he's had a pre-season, nobody's seen him in the first team. So he might give you something. He might give you a little bit of a spark that is lacking at a moment in that game. I just can't see it, but he has to start doing something like that, do something a little bit different.
Yeah. Attacker number 2 doesn't think so. He says, can't wait to watch the exact same selection mistakes and shit show on Saturday. So he's not feeling very confident about it. But he's got to change things a little bit on Saturday. He's got to, I think Botman's got to come in. He's got to come in, and he's got to, he's got to maybe have, obviously, Tino and Hall. I think Ramsdale's got to come in. I mean, Joffrey's saying there, you can call as many players as you want tonight, but Pope lost us the game. I don't disagree with that. The last free kick never even reached the box. Fucking dreadful. I totally agree. Neil's off. See you, Neil. Thanks, mate. But I think the problem is that's, I've been talking about big calls and big balls for weeks, haven't I? And he's not really done it. And we've got a great result against Manchester City, but we all said you got to follow it up. And Marseille wasn't necessarily the game where you needed to follow it up. Saturday is the game you need to follow it up. If we go down to the Hill Dickinson Stadium, that one rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? I've actually driven past that before. It says not a bad stadium. There's a shopping centre just down the road with is it a home bargain? So if anyone wants to go get themselves some fucking chocolates or something on the way to the ground, if you go in, there's one just down the road. There's a little tip for you. But if we go down there and we give up space, look what they did against Man United, 10 men, raker of a goal by Dewsbury Hall, who's capable of it. Jack Grealish is capable of finding pockets of space and exploiting us. If we don't go at that game with the intensity we showed against Man City and really put them to bed early doors and get in control of that game, we could lose that game, because that's not an easy game. Everton at home have played well.
They could. I mean, the one thing Everton massively lack is a forward.
Yeah, they haven't got one.
When you look that you go between Beto and Barry, they've got one goal between them all season. Illiman and Dye's there that kind of been their main threat, but he's been a little bit off the boil in terms of goals. You're right. Obviously, Jack Grealish started the season like a house on fire, and is still a real threat. I thought he played really well last night as well. Dewsbury Hall looks really, really good, but they do lack sort of firepower up front, and Newcastle's defence should be able to contain that, and then it's all about what can you do going forward. And if that intensity is there, and particularly when you go back and look at the first half of tonight, there was that press was on an awful lot, especially we talked about the way that they were set up with that 3-2-1 sort of two kind of, but Barnes was pressing and Gordon was pressing, and then Willock would step up and press. Bruno would step up and press. You saw Dan Burns step into the midfield to press as well. There was that ability to do that, but then again it drops off because the lack of lack of ability to keep that going for so long, and we've seen how much that can affect injuries and things. But they have to be able to do that and pressurize the Everton players because they have mistakes in them. You put pressure on the likes of Michael Keane, he'll make a mistake. He was excellent last night, but he will make mistakes. We've seen that an awful lot from him. So they have to be at that high intensity level to get a good result.
What's Michael Keane and Chris Rock got in common? They're both being slapped on camera. There you go. You were lost there. I don't know
the way you were going with that. That's ridiculous, by the way. Idrissa Gueye needs a slap himself.
Oh yeah. Well, to be fair, I was talking about this. The other day, because one of my colleagues was talking about the fight with Bowyer and Dyer, and I said, well, maybe they'll stop talking about that for once. But see, and Souness was one of the worst Newcastle managers of all time. But I'd have dropped the pair of them and put them on the transfer list. I'd have said, you're never playing for me again after the way they carried on. And this is the problem with football. These players behave in that way, and then them two fuckers were back in the next game. You know what I mean? And just I'd have got rid of the pair of them. I'd said, right, you're fucking gone. Same with Idrissa Gueye. I'd say you're on the fucking transfer list, mate. You're out of here.
Yeah. But was the last one? Was it Andy Griffin? Andy Griffin who was it for Stoke?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Ryan Shaw.
Somebody would tell us in the comments. No, it was 2008, 2009, something like that. I can't remember who it was. So again, somebody will probably put it in the comments for us. But yeah, it doesn't happen very often. But I'm sorry, you yes, have a bit of a Barney. Yes, have a bit of a shove. You cannot raise your hands like that. You just can't. You can't get into it. Take that off the field and have that anger between you later on. But in the middle of the football pitch, when you're that early in a game as well, fucking hell, honestly, ridiculous.
Unreal. I remember that. Ian says Macca and Grobbelaar. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, man, they had a little bit of a dust up and all. You understand players getting upset and yelling at each other. I don't have a problem with that. But don't grab each other. Was it Batty and Lasso as well? They had a punch up, didn't they, as well? Champions League with Blackburn, didn't they? I remember that one. They had a right punch up. I mean, you must be off your tits starting a fight with David Batty, Graham Lasso. I thought you were clever. I wouldn't be starting a fight with David Batty. Fuck me. But yeah, I suppose. We'll get into the Everton preview later on in the week. But I'm not angry about tonight. I'm disappointed. I'm completely and utterly bamboozled.
Such a dad thing to say. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed. I'm literally bamboozled at Nick Pope and how an England national goalkeeper of such experience can do something that stupid. As Brian Bang on Q has just come in and said, Pope cost us a game. It's not the first time. I totally agree.
Guru's comment afterwards is absolutely perfect for what we've just been talking about. Too right.
He probably should have after that. He would have had a good week doing after that.
if I'd have been Mad Dog, I'd have run on the pitch and slapped him, to be honest with you. Just honestly.
Adropsky just says he's shite, and that's why. But I just think that there's big decisions. And Steve's saying there that Eddie still backs Nick Pope, and he probably will, Steve, he probably will. But the biggest problem is, for me, with Eddie Howe, and he's done a lot of good things, right? As Newcastle manager, he's done a lot of good things. He's improved a lot of players. He's won a lot of football games. He's took us from relegation fodder to European football to winning a cup, Champions League twice, right? But one of the things that he doesn't do is make big, tough calls unless they're thrusted upon him by injuries or something like that. And at the minute, he's got a massive call to make when it comes to Nick Pope. I think the plan was always to get Nick Pope's replacement. I don't think he got it. He wanted Trafford. He didn't get him. So Ramsdale was a consolation prize. And I'm not sure whether Eddie Howe trusts Ramsdale. Is he there as the consolation prize, and that's why he won't play him? And that's why he's sticking with Pope. Is he going to wait till January and try and go back with Trafford? And then if we get Trafford, is Trafford going to start over Pope? I don't know. I mean, it's a fucking mess, really.
Well, it is. I mean, I guess the Trafford deal would be much more expensive now because the contract that he will have at City and what City will want to let him go. But I mean, you've got a good goalkeeper in there, and I know Ramsdale has sort of had his issues, but from what we've seen so far of him within that side, he just elevates the.
Ian thinks Trafford's shit as well, so I don't know where we'll go with this one, Mark.
We'll agree to disagree with that. And I think Trafford's going to be a really, really good goalkeeper. I think he needs to be a bit stronger, but I do like him. I think he will come good. But I just think you've brought Ramsdale in. You've paid a lot of money for that loan fee with the option to then bring him in. I think at the end of the loan, you've got to give him the opportunity. And if Pope is costing games, costing points, costing goals, you have to change. You have to be. I've said this before. You have to be ruthless, and you've got to make those decisions. You have to bring him out the team, and it might do him the world of good. But you've got to do it. You have to. You can't continue to play a goalkeeper that is making mistakes. He reminded me an awful lot at the moment of David James, with his constant ability to make these mistakes that cost games. And as good as David James could be, and as good as Nick Pope can be, there comes a point where you've just got to move on from them.
I don't disagree. Big J said Ramsdale's not been bad. When he's played, he has to start. I agree. I actually think if Ramsdale starts, I think he'll keep the shirt. I generally do. I think he'll do a good job. I agree with that as well. Jody J up in Edinburgh. Piff are not seen nor heard. I think we do need some more words from the owners, in my opinion. People seem to just take it as gospel. Everything's all okay. But yeah, I mean, it's a good shout as well from Snaky. Kelleher would have been a good one. I'd like Kelleher. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I think he did well at Liverpool, and it was only 13 million or something daft like that. And we didn't move for him. Yeah, cheap as chips. But I think Vincent agrees with a good comparison with David James. I think for me, this is a huge decision that Howe has to make because, we played well tonight. I agree with all the guys in the comments saying we played well tonight, and Nick Pope's moment of madness just totally knocked us off our axes for about 10 minutes. And because of that, we were down 2-1 because he does that stupid rush of blood to the head thing for the 1-1. And then after that, everyone's heads are on Mars and we'll concede another one straight away because Cher's not quite with it. He's all over the place. He's probably looking at fucking Pope going, what are you going to do next, you mad bastard? And then he just loses the run from Aubameyang. And it's a great bit of movement from an experienced centre forward who scored 360-odd goals in 700 games for a reason. But if Nick Pope doesn't do that, or if Nick Pope's not there to do that, we might win that game or at least get a draw. Ramsdale's not infallible. He can make daft mistakes as well. But I just feel that Pope is making too many. As you say, Mark, he's making too many. And the manager can only cover his arse for so long before there is going to be a situation that he has to do something about it. And Everton could be the start, mate. he could genuinely make that decision.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I do. Thanks very much for that. I think being more interested in the game the weekend. I think that's right. I think 9 points on the board in the Champions League already. It was an opportunity to push further. Still sitting in the top 8, although there are teams to play tomorrow that can jump ahead. But I don't think there's any concern. I think with I guess the fixtures that come, that Newcastle should make it through to the knockout sort of stage, or that playoff stage. But you're right. To come back to it, I think that there has to be a decision just based purely on the fact that we're starting to see more of this. And yes, he will continue to make saves, but there are too many of these mistakes. And it's going to come a point where this costs a ridiculously important game. It will cost in a cup semi-final. It will cost in a league game against somebody that a rival for European spots, or something along those lines. And you cannot continue to trust a player that is continuing to make mistakes like that. If they're not performing, get them out of the firing line. You do the same with anybody else. If you're having an absolute shitter, and we've sort of seen this with Botman. Botman's not been particularly good over the last few weeks. Taking out the firing line. Yes, he might have been struggling fitness-wise, but taking him out the firing line and played Sharon and Chow, do that. Have that same bottle with the goalkeeper as well, and just it might do Nick Pope the world of good by being taken out of the firing line for a few weeks, just to get his sort of head back on his shoulders. But yeah, for me, Ramsdale has to start the weekend.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And I just think that we definitely just finishing that comment there from Falcon Arrow, fucking sick of Pope. That should have been the title of the episode, probably, Mark, to be fair. Fucking sick of Pope.
I was thinking of something to go with it that wasn't along the. I was trying to think of some sort of random thing, but
there is no hope for Pope, exactly. But we'll be back to talk way more Newcastle stuff through the week. I'll try and knock up an aftermath about this game as well before we get stuck into Everton, which we will be all over with a preview, and we will also be doing the live post-match on Saturday night to that one as well. So make sure you keep it evermore, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. We're really close to the 12,000. I think we're within
37 away.
37 now, so we're dead
37
close.
Away.
Yeah, so smash that button. Mark needs to update his numbers there. So he's just done himself over there. So there you go. Tis. Red pen. So we'll get there hopefully way before Christmas, which will be absolutely incredible. But it's all free content, Evermore. If you want to be a member, you can be below. There's also some cheeky Evermore merch, which I know some of you bad boys and girls have bought. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate that. Much appreciate. Help support the channel and all of that stuff as well. But we're off to just try and get Nick Pope's crazy error out of our brains. It'll probably keep us awake all night, like it will do you guys as well. But have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're on the world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.
See you guys. Take care.
Celebrate. They have done it.